recording. Okay, great. So welcome to Connect and Create, episode 59. It's been a whole year, a little over a year of having Connect and Create. And I'm Karina Sephora. I am super, super happy about our guest that we have here today, Maggie Davis, a dear friend of mine and a dear friend of many people here in our audience. And I'm going to tell you just a little tiny bit about the history of how Connect and Create came to be. In the beginning of the pandemic, something that I personally missed a lot was running into people at art openings and going to art lectures and just that social commons that we have inside of the community of being artists. And so I thought I could do something about this. And so I began this show. And we are at now episode 59, and I've chosen to complete at episode 60. Throughout the process, I also wrote and received a very generous grant from the Fulton County Council for the Arts to help with some of the funding for this program and some other online programs that I've created in the last year. And I thought, okay, the last couple episodes, I want to be special. Who is someone who I love and adore, both their work and as a human being? And Maggie Davis came to mind. So I'd like to just give a real warm welcome to Maggie Davis. And Maggie, anything you'd like to say before I formally introduce you?
I am totally overcome by your generosity and the number of friends that are showing up on the screen. And let me catch my breath. You can go ahead. Introduce me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, Maggie, so much for being here. And thank you, everyone else in our audience, for being here. So Maggie Davis grew up on Eastern Long Island, where nature was a significant influence. The art scene in the city filtered through television and magazines and was also an impetus to be an artist. She was recognized early while still studying art in junior college through exhibitions, awards, reviews, and sales. And she supported her studio practice through teaching her works through teaching. And her works are in museum, university, public, and private collections throughout the country. Maggie Davis lives and works in Athens, Georgia. Let's give a warm welcome to Maggie. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, this is such a treat, Karina. And I really want to thank you for your generosity for this endeavor of spending a year of your life every week, giving something extraordinary to the artists that you have reached out to. And I, of course, am very grateful for that. Karina and I go back a long way, artists at the Goat Farm, and have been meeting in critique group for years, a group that she started and that I was a participant in until I moved to Athens, where I am now in this fantastic studio that I have, that I own. Finally, I own it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. It's a trip down memory lane. I'm going to put up the first, I'm going to put the PowerPoint up, and let's see, we need to have it be.
And while Maggie's doing that, just so you know, we'll have a little time towards the end where we could do Q&A, unless, of course, Maggie, you choose at any point during the time that you want to open it up for any conversation. Okay. That's okay. Awesome.
So slideshow, play from current slide. Okay, here we go. All right.
Don't forget to screen share at the bottom too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
That's ooh, it's not there.
You might have selected the whiteboard.
Nope. I'm sorry. I'm not really sure what I'm doing.
That's okay. Just go ahead and click on the presentation.
Escaping.
Yeah, there you go. click on the presentation and then click screen share, and then it'll
Okay.
go for it that way.
Oh, that's right. Okay, got it. Share. Here we go. No, it's not doing it.
You need to back up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, just do the back arrows, and then that'll give us our first page.
This is not,
You did have the right presentation. I think you just needed to back arrow it up. Just
back arrow. Where are the back arrows? They're not on the screen.
left arrow on your keyboard.
Oh, keyboard. What an idea. No, won't go.
You want to do everything that you did one more time, and then we'll just.
Sure. All right. So I bring the PowerPoint up, correct?
Yep.
Click on this. And this is not the screen I want, right? So I want to go to view. I want slideshow.
Yep.
I want play from current slide.
And screen share.
And I missed that. Damn, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Screen share. But see, I don't want to share the side view.
There you go. And then with your arrow, maybe just
Okay, got it.
or 2 slides, and then you'll be there.
Okay, we're gonna go backwards.
Perfect. Yay!
Okay. All right, so thank you for your patience. So I have launched this idea of an anti-retrospective. Artists sometimes look back on their work and a curator will say, well, you know, Julie Meritou, we need to really do a mid-career retrospective for you. And so there's this fantastic exhibition that gets generated, and we get a chance to look at the artist's work over time. Well, that's not going to happen for me. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that. It could, but I'm creating my own. And I'm using the 50 years between 1974, which was when I had my first commercial gallery show in Miami at Gloria Luria Gallery, and 2024, when I will turn 80, which is hard to believe. So we're going to go on a little trip through memory lane and start with the 70s and talk a little bit about some of the things that influence artists, and in particular me, as I began the journey. I moved from New York City, where I was living, to Miami in 1968. And the difference in the environment was stunning to me. And it was overwhelming, both the extraordinary sky, the clouds, the landscape, the verdancy of everything that was in the landscape. And so I began painting, and I was painting independently of anything. I was just making paintings. And they were about the landscape. They were about what I was seeing. And I was basically taking apart what was too hard to grasp as a whole. And so these little paintings, they're 14 by 11 or 15 by 15, are on linen, they're acrylic, and they're very schematic. I sort of created symbolic icons, the clouds, the stone fences in Coconut Grove, the coral rock fences, and the layers of clouds that would march across the Everglades and hit Miami in the late afternoon, drenching it. Those of you who've lived in Miami know what that was like. The black and white was a barricade that was being used in the construction that was going on. 68 Dixie Highway was still not quite 1 lane, 2 lanes. It was 4 lanes, but there was still a lot of road work being done and a lot of construction. And there was a company called Bob's Barricades. And I found that image was very iconic for the kind of tension that exists between nature and culture or civilization in that respect. So these little paintings were a way to capture the tension between this extraordinarily beautiful part of the world and our need to change it. I was in community college, and the gallery touched base with me and offered me a show, and so I I was quite flattered, and I decided that I would up the scale of the work. So I took those barricades and started working on a very large scale. I was also learning how to use airbrush. So there's some airbrush going on. This is, the 70s. And so this painting, whose name I can't remember, is one of the paintings that was in the show that was a large work. By the time I got to upper division at Florida International University, I was, this is moving too fast. Okay. I was being challenged and challenging myself to ask questions about what painting could be. Sorry. Okay. Can we do this? Is this still working?
Yeah, it's looking good, Maggie.
Okay. All right, fine. I don't know how to stop it from moving forward.
Maybe
So I painted, I made a painting on a piece of muslin. It was 15 feet long, and it had stripes on it, and the stripes changed color, and the stripes were diagonal to the fabric itself. And it was painting. It was a painting that I then took and put into the landscape. I had been in a course where they talked about the course was about mythology and the fact that we no longer live with a mythology as prior civilizations have lived with, although we inherited both the Greek and Roman architecture. Mythology was not something that was part of the 20th century. And so I felt like the icon of the barricade turned into a painting on a piece of fabric that was fluid and malleable and could be placed anywhere would be an interesting idea of injecting the barricade into the landscape and seeing what was possible. So these are some paintings from a project called Animate Myth, and it was a very comprehensive project. I did lots of photographs, probably hundreds of photographs, made a slideshow. It was used by some mimes in a performance at the university. And then the last slide is of an artist collaborator, Mark Lynch, who worked with me on the final project when we were taking it out to the beach. And I looked at this when I was putting this together, and I said, that's so perfect. It's just so perfect that painting is wrapped around this body, and it's standing on the edge of the sea. And in 2021, we have a president talking about climate change as a serious issue. And so I just look back on some of this work and think, wow, wow. And then I went to graduate school. And at the University of South Florida, the painters there were a couple of painters that were mostly representational. And so I was influenced by that, but I was also influenced by the landscape. I lived about 20 miles from the campus, and I drove through the orange groves on a daily basis. And I was very, very smitten with the way the light played in those tunnels of trees. And I did a number of paintings dealing with that, trying to understand what it was about this light and this space that was so intriguing. And, I think that what I was grasping for was a sense of the sublime in nature. And the construction of the paintings was very fragmented. I basically focused on every single little mark that I made and let the marks sort of coalesce into a form that would represent the landscape, but also have the possibility of falling apart. So it's like things can come together and they can fall apart. There are places that creep into my thinking. The idea of that we are all made of atoms and cells, and that these things are basically interchangeable, and all the mystery surrounding that. And it's very intriguing to think about our impermanence and how things can coalesce and they can also come apart. And I think that's certainly the experience that we have throughout life. And then this was another one that I did. This is quite large as well. It's probably 72 inches by 90 inches wide. So that was graduate school. And when I was finally out, I of course, everything changes, and you have, I also moved. I was no longer living in Tampa. I moved to Sarasota. I was working at the Ringling Museum, and I was free. And I was reading. I'm an avid reader. I am also an avid journal writer. So I was reading Kandinsky because this idea that there was something more in the landscape that I was looking at, really, the answer seemed to come from Kandinsky's book concerning the spiritual in art. And when I looked at Kandinsky's early work, I found a structure that would let me move beyond the representational and into something that was far more abstract, which was very interesting to me. My thesis show was a battle between representation and abstraction, and I couldn't make a decision about that. And I think that that has been one of the big questions throughout my career as an artist. So anyway, here's one of the paintings that was influenced by Kandinsky's early work. It certainly doesn't look like anything of his, but that's because it's my work. And actually, I think Jack doesn't own this painting. This was owned by somebody else. I can't remember who now. Anyway, Jack is on this, is in the audience, hooray. Because he owns one of those paintings. Also, other influences that came my way were the feminist art movement at the university, Florida International University. The president, the department chairperson invited 3 artists from New York, and they were in residence, 3 women artists. They were all feminists, and they kind of lit the department on fire. So this is one of the early paintings dealing with Take Back the Night. And then again, another move, studio move this time. I moved into a very large space and I could make large work. And I was also approaching the end of my 30s and really questioning the baggage that I was carrying around from my adolescence. And the feminist movement also had a huge impact on me, Miriam Shapiro in particular. And so out of the blue, I started working, I did works with figures in them. This is a very large, let's see, so this is like 80 inches high by 246, 80 inches wide. And it's a figure, a very ghostly, every woman kind of image. And she is holding a shell and pouring some kind of, some fluid onto the landscape. Behind her, it's a desolate landscape, but there is this cloud that also almost feels like her breath. And so, there's an incantation in this work that has a lot to do with a point in my life where giving up the things and saying goodbye to them, the things in my life that weren't working, the sort of expectations of who I would be as a woman, and the expectations of how I would be as brought up in a rather didactic religious experience. This was the time when it was time to say goodbye. So I did a series of paintings that were very autobiographical, and they were really completely different than anything else I had done. And they just enacted the ritual of letting go. This is called Transit. The one before it was called Mediator. And this last one is Red Madonna. These were all done in 1988, and there were probably a half dozen of them, or more, maybe 8 to 10. And they were all large. They were on paper, they were large works. So then I moved to Miami and had a studio at the Bakehouse, and I was free. I'd let go of what was burdening me and found back in Miami this environment that I was familiar with, but I had a sense of freedom and excitement that really came forth in this work. And I also was working, sometimes materials can influence you. And I was working with oil paint sticks, and this painting, which is also large, it's probably 80 by 80 on paper, is oil stick on paper, on gesso paper. So I was invited to do a collaboration. This would be in the early 90s. And I was working with a sculptor and a musician. And the collaboration, the idea was that we would talk about our individual practice and find ways to create an exhibition that would reflect a theme. So we chose the theme Shifting Ground. And I was the painter, Nancy Richter was the sculptor. These are tar paper, has drawings on tar paper that are suspended from a single monofilament, and they move in the space. And John Williams, not the composer, was the musician, and he had air activated sound, a sound loop that was playing in the gallery, and I think it was a sound activated. And so as things, as people came in, the air movements would move the sculptures and activate the sound recording. It was really a pretty spectacular show. It was due to open, I think, on August 28th. And I think on August 24th, Hurricane Andrew hit Miami and shut everything down. So the show was never seen. It was never seen. And those paintings, all but one, are now wrapped up in my studio in storage. It was a wonderful show. This is one of the paintings that was in the show. And this one. How am I doing on time?
You're doing great, Maggie. You know, you can go all the way to 1:15 if you wanted to share work, if you want to leave time for question, answer, conversation. You know, you can do it like when you did yours. You can break it up now and ask if anyone has any questions. Totally up to you. But we usually complete at approximately 1:15.
Okay, great. Let me see where we are in this. Okay, so this is one of the paintings. I'll just, I might stop. I'll stop after Hurricane Andrew. So Hurricane Andrew was quite an experience, and these paintings were made before the storm. So it's quite extraordinary that the three of us got together and said we were going to call this shifting ground. And indeed, it wasn't an earthquake, but it was something at least as devastating. And I just, I look back on this work and think there really was sort of some foretelling going on here. So I'm just going to show 2 more slides, and then we can stop and take questions. And then I have about 8 more to go. So this is a group of works that I did. These are sort of, I think they're 10 by 8, maybe, yeah, 10 by 8 or 11 by 8. And they're on paper, use oil paint stick on paper. They are from 1993. This was after the storm. And this is what Miami looked like. This is what South Florida looked like after Hurricane Andrew. The trees had all been decimated. They'd been decapitated. And we had all these sticks sticking up in the air. The ones that stay were still standing in the air. So I did a series of 25 of these decapitated trees. And then Fairchild Tropical Garden, which also was destroyed by the hurricane, invited artists to take wood from the trees that had been felled. And there were a lot of extraordinary trees that came down, and somebody came down from Georgia and with a portable mill and started milling the trees. So I chose a flat plank of wood called Kaffir plum. And I was at I took it up to the Hambidge Center and worked on a series of prints. Let's go. Let's back. Okay. Worked on a series of prints that are called Hurricane Dancers. And the gardens they got 3 of them, and then I kept the rest. So I worked on both sides of the, did I? No, I didn't work on both sides. I worked on one side and used oil paint and oil paint sticks to create these dancers that were hurricanes. Okay, I'm gonna stop here, I said, and see if there are any questions. It's 2 minutes to 1. And I have about, let's see how I can stop this. Okay. I have newer work to show that shifted. So let's see who has any questions.
Are you going to leave it with the images up, Maggie? If so,
You can direct me.
Okay. It's a little easier to see people, but will that mess you up with the order? Will it mess you up with the order of where you're at?
No, I can find it.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, it looks like Shannon's come off mute. Shannon, did you have a comment or a question?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't know I was commenting. I was just, I had gone out and then come back in, so.
Oh, okay. No worries. Well, if you think of something, you're welcome to. And it looks like Suzanne's got her electronic hand raised. Suzanne, did you have a comment?
I have a question for Maggie. Maggie, when was it that you said, I'm an artist?
I didn't say it. Everybody else did. And the most significant moment was in the 3rd grade when my teacher, Mr. Zavuto called my mother in to show her a drawing I made with apple trees of an apple tree that had 1,000 apples on it. Well, that's an exaggeration, but it was covered with apples. And he said, "She is an artist." And I was standing there and I thought, yeah, okay, I'll go there. I mean, it was very powerful because as a 10, how old was I? 7 or 8. I didn't have an identity. And I was I was first born, very shy, very quiet, no voice. And and I had been drawing since I was 5 or 6. So I really created my world through drawing. And I haven't stopped.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? It works well if you want to raise your electronic hand and I can just call on you. Or if you can't manage that, you can just wave or come off mute. We're kind of a small group. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Maggie?
I have another question.
Okay. Go on, Suzanne.
When you showed the pictures that in Florida of the trees, there's beautiful, was it the orange groves that you were so smitten by?
Yes.
And then you said, things fall apart. Can you say a bit more about that?
Oh, what a good question. I think I'm a human being, and as I lived my life, things would come together and things would fall apart. Going to graduate school for me was an enormous step forward. And I had been in Miami. I was successful in Miami. I had people who knew my work and who respected it. And I was still in undergraduate school, which was unheard of. So, but I also knew that I couldn't ride on that adulation, that something had to change. And going to graduate school was the only thing I thought it was the best thing. And of course, other people were also in the art department thinking about graduate school, a best friend of mine. So graduate school was a shock. I left a department that was progressive, that had feminist artists coming in and lighting fires under the women. And I went to a department that, none of that was happening. So it was a shock. It was a cultural shock. And I also, I follow my own path. I trust myself, or I trusted myself then. I trusted the artist that I was. So things fall apart. Yeah. And that has happened plenty of times in my life. Every time I move, things fall apart. I mean, that's an easy one to deal with. But then, you lose people in your life. So while I was in graduate school, I lost a good friend in a flood. I was devastated by that. I made art about it. So that's what comes with being in this world. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you,
Maggie.
Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Okay.
We have a couple comments from the people on Facebook Live. Jerry Siegel, he's been watching and he says that he loves hearing your thoughts and just wonderful works.
Thank
Jerry
you,
Siegel.
Jerry. Come
Wonderful.
to Athens. Come visit me.
You got an invitation, Jerry. And then Karen Phillips, she says, Maggie, your work is amazing. Thank you for sharing your art journey. I'm inspired. So that's from Karen
thank you,
Phillips.
Karen. Boy,
Yeah.
I have watched Karen develop and grow in her own work too. That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And then Helen Doremus, it looked like you came off mute. Did you have a question or a comment you wanted to make?
I did. I wanted to ask Maggie about her speaking about abstraction versus realism and how that is it still affecting you?
Oh my gosh, I'm a
Between the two.
Yeah, I'm actually, I've made a commitment to abstraction as she paints flowers. No, I'm pretty much an abstract painter. It matches my intellect. And I have a whole, the rest of the work I show is that work. So that's maybe a wonderful conversation to have. Personally, I moved away from landscape because I felt it was that the response of the viewer was too rooted in memory and comfort. And so I didn't, later, I'm not showing these, but later when I was in Miami, I made landscapes that were not comforting. They were very fraught. They were Everglades and they were fraught. Nobody would show them. It's okay. Now, the maturation of those ideas are now, I found a way with abstraction to create opportunity for the viewer to be drawn in, but to be questioned, to be challenged about their assumptions about what they're seeing. And that is like my mature commitment to abstraction. I'm making things now that look totally confusing, and I'm loving it. You know, it's not Jackson Pollock stuff. It's highly regulated, but very difficult to get a handle on. And it's my favorite. It's what I want to do, because I think, you know, sometimes painting, I don't want to make paintings that make people feel safe. I don't want to do that. I want to make paintings that make people question what does it mean to know something? What does it mean, period? You know, we're making all this stuff up. You know, I'm making it up. And so that's what I want my paintings to do. I want them to be unsettling and beautiful at the same time. Helen, thank you for that question.
Sure.
I want to get on to show some more work. Do we have any more questions or observations?
We have one comment from Jerry Cullum on Facebook Live.
Jerry,
And, yeah, and Jerry Cullum, this is a great comment, by the way. He says, Maggie, you need to bring out those paintings that never got shown due to the hurricane and exhibit them.
Jerry Cullum, from your mouth to Annette Cohn-Skelton's ear. Can you take care of that for me? Thank you.
It's a great idea. And who better to have I don't know, where better to have a retrospective exhibition than at MoCA GA?
Okay.
One, I like how ideas are formulating here. And by the way, Jerry Siegel says he's going to come visit you soon.
I would love that.
Right.
I would love
So
that.
Maggie, I just so you have some peace of mind, if we go over a few minutes, it's not the end of the world. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now let's see if I can get this right. I go to share screen. There we go. And I get this. Share. And I get view slideshow.
Great. And then you can just scroll with you can just
Right.
get us to where we were. Okay, great.
Okay.
Jerry says he'll try. He's going to talk to Annette.
Okay.
Maybe everyone here should talk to Annette on Maggie's behalf. It'll be like that great idea.
Oh my God.
MoCAGA.org. Just send a direct message to it. We want to
That's so
see
funny.
images from Maggie.
one of those paintings is now in somebody's home, fortunately.
Mm.
Okay, here we go again, Jerry.
Yeah, they're really spectacular, by the way, Maggie. Now, are they on cloth? They look almost like they have a wrinkle in the back.
They're on canvas.
Oh, they're on
just
canvas.
free and they're hung on grommets.
Okay, that's why they appear to have.
Very interested in the fragility. Anyway, so just as quickly, the painting is a visual art. So the world of my eyes are on everything. I see and notice everything, and it's imprinted somewhere in my brain. And so things that I see in the world find their way into paintings. So the photograph on the left, I'm not sure what that is. I thought it was for Cynthia, but I'm not sure. The painting on the right, whoops, there we go again, sorry. The painting on the right is about 40 inches by 36 inches and is basically the bark of a tree. And this work is actually on the left, a drawing that some friends came and we wrapped a poplar tree on our property that was going to be destroyed, taken down. It was probably 200 years old. And we wrapped it and we rubbed it and we made this drawing. It's probably, I don't know how long the sheet is, but that's a drawing of the skin of the tree that was made by rubbing it. And then the painting on the right is the beginning of work that I was doing that deals with figure ground issues. And I'm going to show you the painting that kicked all of that off. So this was 2007, 8, and then I finally gave up on it, 2009. It looks a little different because I have worked on it in the last year. It's quite big. It's 90 inches by 103, something crazy like that. It's oil on canvas, and it overwhelmed me. So I had to stop working on it, and I put it away and began working on smaller paintings that were 14 by 11, dealing only with figure ground problems. So I was using color and trying to understand how I could create a play of figure ground with color, a spatial play. And of course, I spent from 2009 to 2013 doing that. And in 2014, I was able to scale that up because I got a studio at the goat farm. So I was working in a very small studio. I couldn't work large. So the 14 by 11 inch paintings, I'm not going to show them because we don't have time. So I finally scaled up, and that was when I connected with Sandler Hudson Gallery, and they offered me, well, let me just say it the way it was. After a year, they were handling my work, but after a year, I marched into the gallery and sat down with Robin and said, I want to have a show. When can I have a show? And Robin just got up and walked into the bathroom. Debbie was there, and she got up and looked at her calendar. And when Robin came back and got over her shock of someone coming and demanding a show in her gallery, they both agreed to give me a show in December of 2016. So these are the paintings where the language of painting was used. I've had full command of the language of figure ground relationships and the idea of setting up expectations and then disrupting them. That's the best way I can put it. So this painting is big, actually. It's probably 40 by 50 by 60. And this one, and these are all from, this is actually 2016 also. The prior one is 2016. I can't remember the name of this. I think it's called Flooding. So the whole, these are all 72 by 53. And they're acrylic, and they are on the wall, off the wall, on the table. They're manipulated, paint is dripped, paint is splashed, and then I go in and I do handwork. So I'm still dealing with this idea of parts to the whole, but I'm also playing now with what the spatial relationships are, and what's in front and what's behind, and how that cannot be consistently read. Like, you can't say, oh, green is the background color, because it's not. And so anyway, that's kind of the play with this work. This was done in 2018, 17, 18 maybe. Also, the same game is being played out here. Lots of paint on the canvas, allowing certain things to happen just intuitively, and then going back in and disrupting what's there. I'm particularly fond of these shapes that I went in and outlined and made to float. This is one from 2016. It was, whoops, sorry. And this, yeah, 2016, this is also from the fourth wall. It's called The Arrival. It was one of the first paintings in the show that I made. And again, it's, where are things located? What's the game? What's the visual game going on here? You know, sometimes I talked about how painters are in competition with a 5.5-inch iPhone, because that's what we spend most of our time looking at. And a painting has to be able to arrest someone's attention, and it has to hold them there, and it has to deliver something. So, you know, I'm feeling that this way of working with media, creating this complexity, is a very satisfying experience, because I don't think that life is stable. I don't think it's permanent, obviously. And I think everything's changing all the time. I was very fond of saying, into the same river, no man steps twice, no woman either. And we can thank Heraclitus for that little quote. So that, I think, is the last image. And I have a website. If you haven't seen enough, there's 400 more that you can look at. And I'm adding them every day. It's maggiedavisart.com. And then there's an Instagram. No, that's not correct. Maggie Davis 8618 is the Instagram account. There's obviously a typo there. So that's it. I'd rather end on an image. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for the patience with the glitches. And please go to my website. And I want to thank Karina very much for this opportunity.
Definitely, Maggie.
And thank all of my friends for being here. Yes, look at you. Oh, Mary, look at Mary. And Jack is here. And Barbara. Hello, Barbara Hutzel and Ellen and Anna. I love you. I love you all. It really matters to me that you are here. It really does. It's very, very special. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Karina.
You're welcome, Maggie. And we had a couple more comments I didn't see in our comments here from Shannon. She loves those hurricane paintings also, Shannon Morris. And Betsy, who loves your work and says it's an inspiration. And Anna, do you want to shout out what you said in the message, that you realized you guys were in a show together?
Yes, we were. Sunrise Bank. Yeah.
Great.
And you have one of my pieces. Don't you have a painting, a little one? Yeah,
Great.
great.
Wonderful.
Jack is my biggest collector.
Oh, yeah?
Jack Dinus, yeah.
Thank you, Jack. Great.
So thank you, Mary
Wonderful.
Hector. Sorry?
I said, well, wonderful, Maggie. It's been a
Okay.
real treat to see this whole exhibition, and it's totally fine. We do sometimes come over a couple extra minutes. And anyone have any final comments they want to say directly to Maggie before we bring this to a close?
Thank you, Maggie. And I'm so proud to have you as my sister.
I know, I know. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
We've got a couple people off mute. Shannon, did you have something you wanted to say?
You always inspire me intellectually. You have such great thoughts about things. So I took some notes.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you very much.
I love your pictures of the trees after Hurricane Andrew. We had some trees come down the past couple weeks in my subdivision too. So that, I'm like, oh, maybe I can take some pictures and create something out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Those are very melancholy paintings. They did, a whole bunch of them disappeared.
Oh,
Yeah, after an exhibition, I went to pick the work up, they were gone. So
oh,
I have 3 and a friend of mine has 5, and that's it. The rest of them are gone.
Hmm.
Oh, I've had so much work disappear. Oof.
oh, that's awful.
Yes, it is. But you know what? That's another one of those obstacles that you just keep on going.
Right,
Just keep on going.
right.
There's,
It's
you
kind of
know,
like-
when
like-
you say I'm an artist, you're never not. You're never not an artist. So, well,
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Come back next week for our final in this series. We have Lisa Tuttle will be speaking.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you can use the same, URL to sign in and get the link. And I, myself, and everyone that helps to put this show together, thank you for being here and being a part of this. It's really fun when we have a great big Zoom audience. And Maggie, what are your final words that you'd like to leave our Facebook Live audience with and our Zoom audience with?
Document your work.
Mm.
Document it. Don't let it go, please. I had a friend who made art all her life. She died. That was the end of it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So document your work.
Document your work. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Come back next week for our grand finale.
I'll be there. Okay. Thank you, Melody. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Nellie. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Tonya, Tony, Hannah, Tony, Hannah. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome, and I really enjoyed you. Thank you.
Oh.
You're such an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll keep making art. Don't stop and document.
Okay,
Karina,
thank you.
very much.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And episode 59 of Connect and Create. Check.
Okay.